Okay. I call to order this evening the 1,180th meeting of the Board of Library Trustees. This evening, February 19th, 2026 at 6:09 p.m. Executive Assistant Bender, may I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Wong.
Here.
Trustee Wittenberry.
Here.
Trustee Uno.
Here.
Trustee Easton.
Here.
Trustee Butler.
Yes, here.
Mr. President, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. And now please join me in welcoming Terrence Beard, a fifth grader.
Welcome.
Fifth grader at Chadwick School and a proud member of Cub Scout Pack 555, who will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Will the audience please rise? On my honor, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good job. Great job.
Great job, Terrence. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us this evening. Okay. Can I now have a motion to adopt the agenda for this evening as presented?
So
I move to
moved.
adopt the agenda.
Okay. We have a motion made by Trustee Easton. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item number 5, special meetings. We've had 2 since our last meeting, our last regular meeting. On January 22, budget workshop as an open session, and no action was taken on that day. And then earlier today, Thursday, February 19th, Director's mid-year performance review was conducted in closed session here at the Peninsula Center. No action was taken in that meeting either. I'll mention on February 6th, there was a celebration of life, staff memorial for colleague Lorenzo Orozco, which was very well attended by many district staff. On January 27th, Trustees Wittenberry and Easton joined me to celebrate the reorganization of the Rolling Hills Estates City Council as the Director Addington. We celebrated the end of Mayor Segura's term, former PVLD trustee, and celebrated the incoming mayorship of Frank Zerunian. And I feel like I'm forgetting something here. I'll skip ahead here. So one reminder, I think everyone here has probably received an email from the county. The Form 700 is due in just a few weeks by April 1st. So please be sure to submit that important disclosure document.
Question
Yeah.
for that. Since I just did one, just prior to the end of last year,
Ooh,
do I do it again? Does
No,
anyone-
you don't. You're the only one. You don't have to
Who
do it.
doesn't need to do it again? Okay, thank you.
thank you for clarifying. And that's all I have. Do any other board members wish to offer comments in this portion?
I will say that we attended the chamber event at La-Venta, and it was, I, for one, thought it was a very nice event. We had our own seating. It was just a very nice event, and so I'm pleased to see the changes that the chamber has coming.
Good, thank you. Any others? All right, seeing none. Executive Assistant Bender, are there any public comments for this evening's meeting?
No, sir, I didn't receive any.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have the consent calendar. Can I have a motion to approve the items and recommended actions in the consent calendar as presented?
So moved.
Motion made by Secretary Wittenberry. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes. So we have no extra things to consider here. So moving on to item number 9, and at this point I'll turn it over to Director Addington for this portion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a few items of note to mention this evening.
First, this Sunday, February 22nd, the Peninsula Center Library will be hosting its annual Living History Museum of African American Heroes. This is a really lovely event, and if you haven't attended before, I'd highly suggest that you attend. It's a great opportunity to kind of see the creativity and the amazing work that the kids put into this. So it's here at the Peninsula Center Library. The museum itself, which is a living museum of children enacting their favorite African American heroes, is from 2 to 3, and then the award ceremony is here in this room from 3 to 4. On Thursday, March 5th, the 11th annual South Bay Economic Forecast will be happening at Cal State University Dominguez Hills. It is a ticketed event. If you're interested, please let Executive Assistant Bender know, and we will buy a ticket for you. But it is also a very well-attended and very well-respected event, always very, very interesting. So if you're interested in that, please let us know.
Excuse me. Director Addington. I have been authorized to invite you and the trustees as my guest to that event.
Oh.
So that will save on our budget if you'd like to attend, but I would like to know tonight if possible so I can get you all on the list.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much. That's
Just
wonderful.
let me know if you're going.
Great. Thank you.
Mhm.
We will be holding a groundbreaking ceremony for our Deep Valley entryway enhancements on Friday, March 6th at 1 p.m. We'll gather at 1. We're envisioning the program itself starting around 1:30, and by 2 o'clock we will be done. So a fairly short event, but we certainly hope to see the trustees that can make it to that. Also, just wanted to put on your radar that the Public Library Association Annual Conference is April 1 through 3. It is in Minneapolis, Minnesota this year, and early bird registration is available now for anybody who's interested in going. Also wanted to note that the 2026 Serving with a Purpose Conference will be held on Thursday, May 14th. So it's still a little ways out, but the registration is open now for early bird, which is why we wanted to get it on calendars in case somebody was interested. This is an annual event for trustees, boards, foundations, friends groups, and it's held at the Ontario Convention Center. Again, if you're interested in this, please let Executive Assistant Bender or I know, and we can get you registered. And for now, those are all the upcoming events that I have to share. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Real quick question. Serving with a Purpose, that was a event that was very commonly, the Friends organization very commonly sent people to that conference. Does the foundation send people to this one?
I honestly can't speak to that. I know that the Peninsula Library Friends had in the past.
Yeah.
I think it just depends on schedule availability, but I don't know.
I
Okay.
have attended the past 3 years,
Mhm.
and only last year I saw the director,
Okay.
but no one else.
Okay.
So I had a question on that as well. We have a limited budget for attending things like that, and I'm trying to understand where my priorities should be, being a new trustee. So I would love to hear from you all, if you think that is the right place for me to start, or
We're going to
if
have
you think something
a
else
good
is.
conversation
Are
on
we?
this later.
Oh, I didn't see
Yeah.
that on the agenda. Thank you.
Yeah, on this whole issue of the training and travel.
Well, the
Budget and all that.
budget, yes, I didn't know about the rest. Okay.
Well, I think that's relevant at
tie
that
in.
point.
They tie in, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now we'll have a facilities update from Facilities Manager Gutierrez.
Hello, good evening. If you happen to come in through the Deep Valley entryway, you would see the construction fences that are out and some of the signs that are required to be posted by the city. So we have officially started that project. We did have delay because of the rain this week, so we haven't gotten the temporary walkway set up all of the way. But they will start that tomorrow and be working on that next week so that we can then actually close off that area. But for now, people are able to access the middle of the walkway down into the building and And once the temporary walkway is set up, then we'll be closing that off, and then there'll be more construction crews that are down there, and we'll start demo and then really hit it strong after the groundbreaking and get the rest of it up. But they're going to be getting equipment in, some backhoes, some skid steers, things that they're going to need to break up all of the walkway that's there, and that's going to be, obviously, demo's the first stage. So we're moving. We had a meeting. I had a meeting with the contractors on Monday morning with his subs, and we discussed, where everybody was going to be, our different priorities, and kind of how I expect them to function with the district. And it was a good 3-hour productive meeting for all of us to kind of come together for that. But we spent a lot of time working on that this week, and we're excited to finally get this started after close to 3 years from inception of the project. And I'm sure we'll have a lot to update in March about that as well.
Are there any questions?
Daniel, I asked someone to put in a work order tonight. I just don't know if you saw, there's a hole in the
I did see the work order, and I walked up there. Yeah.
Okay, great. I just
Yes.
hope we can put caution tape across it or something.
Yeah, we might be able to repair it tonight. If not, we'll just put some caution tape on it.
Thank you. As
Yep.
we say in legal lingo, it's a tort waiting to happen, so I just
Yeah.
want to make sure it's a clear hazard.
Not a problem letting us know. Thank you for letting us know.
So aside from the rain, no big surprises with the project, the
No.
entryway project so far?
No, and last week we were talking about what the forecast was, and kind of, it was a little bit delayed on when the fence was going to get set up, but it still ended up getting set up on Tuesday, even though we didn't think that was going to happen until Wednesday. And the only thing that it delayed was getting the temporary walkway in, because, they're going to be leveling it with dirt and ripping out some of the landscaping that's currently there in order to make access for that walkway, and they're not going to do that in the rain. So they're planning on starting that tomorrow and then into next week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you
Anything
very
else?
much.
Thank you.
And now a presentation and discussion on considering an increase on coverage limits with the district's liability insurance. So Finance Director Lou is joining us by Zoom.
Hello, good evening. In the packet, there's a memo regarding the consideration to increase the liability limits from the current 5 million to 10 million. A couple of years ago, back in 2024, we had reduced it from 10 to 5 million. But despite the continuing hard market conditions for insurance, staff recommends reverting back to the $10 million level just to provide better financial protection for the district, as well as given the improved budgetary outlook. The costs for next fiscal year are not available yet, but to increase it from 5 to 10 million would have cost approximately $132,000 for the current fiscal year. So kind of gives you an idea of the cost to get back to the $10 million level. And wanted to see if anyone had any questions or comments on this topic.
So just as a recap, we actually had the higher coverage. And I think, if my memory corrects me, we basically allowed ourselves to take a lower limit, partially because of the premium cost and partially because, given our history, we felt relatively safe with the lower limit, correct?
That's correct.
So by going, has the market changed for premiums that we could go back to the higher limit because insurance premium rates have softened a little bit? Or are we just simply doing this because we can afford it and it is a better protection to have the higher limit?
It is more the latter.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I would just add that there was definitely the financial component before, and at that point in time, dropping the insurance coverage wasn't our ideal, but it was an option that allowed us a little more breathing room in the budget. And now we feel much more secure in where we are standing with the budget and our financial situation. And I think it just makes, I know me personally, and I think I can speak for Finance Manager Lou in saying for him as well, that we would feel better, we would feel like our liability is in a better position if we go back to what we were. And we're very thankful that we were able to drop that for a few years.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we just feel better about going back, and we feel more confident in the budget now.
Well, I think that I'm glad we're in a fiscal situation where we can go back to the
Right.
higher limit if we choose to.
Yeah.
And again, insurance is part of my background.
Mm-hmm.
I like the higher limit. So if you feel that we are in a secure enough financial situation that we can
Yes.
go ahead to the higher limit, then I have no problems doing so.
At what point can we find out the precise cost for this coming fiscal year?
I think we won't know until May or June. We will probably have a preliminary estimate sometime in May, like early May. So I would say that the cost would probably be a little bit higher than the 132 because that's for the current year liability. I mean current year premium. So insurance rates I think will continue to go up a little bit. So I would say that the 132 is not like a ceiling or a do not exceed, but it's more of an indication of, what the delta, what the extra cost would be, assuming it's this year.
Is there a number of people that we could put the bid out to, or are we limited?
Not at this point, I think, to do a 7-1. I think the timing doesn't. Um, I don't think there's enough time for to go outside and see what else is out there. I think SDRMA has its excess carrier that it routinely, looks at and surveys the market. So we would just be going through SDRMA if we wanted to increase our limit.
You know what, at the end of the day, STMRA is probably the cheapest option.
It probably is, yeah.
Yeah.
What is that premium that we're paying now for the 5 million, and will it go? What's the incremental change going to be?
It's basically
Sure.
Double.
I mean, it's like 70, isn't it, Will?
Yes, it's second. Okay, so we just for the $5 million limit, we are paying approximately 116,000
Oh,
for the current year.
Oh,
To increase it to 10 for that second 5 million limit, it would be the 132,000 that I mentioned. So it would be a little bit more than double.
So it would be,
say that,
The
yeah, I'm
130
sorry, say that again. We're paying 100 and what now?
we're paying 116.
He's saying the 132 is additional to that.
Is additional.
Additional,
Yes.
so the
Oh, I'm
total
sorry.
will be 200 something.
I'm sorry.
Correct.
I see. So
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
okay.
It would go from 116,000 to 100 and I mean 248,000 for the current year.
is that close to what we were paying previously?
Previously, the savings were approximately it was approximately that amount, a little bit less. So it's definitely gone up a little bit over the last 2 years.
Okay. I will say that I was not in favor of this when it came up last time, making that cut. So, I'm inclined to vote for it tonight, to increase the cost.
Can you explain the 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 favorable financial condition of the library, where the additional, 130,000, where we were able to recoup that now currently.
Yeah, I think a large part of that has to do with the pension side of things and how CalPERS has done over the last couple of years.
Okay.
We originally, and I've been having in our budget additional discretionary payments to CalPERS, which we haven't had to do for a couple of years now. And just given their performance for the last two fiscal years, including and this fiscal year to date, um, the pension funding position is much better than it was 2.5 years ago, and that in conjunction with um, having surpluses and being able to put aside money into our pension fund to enable us to prepay our First Foundation debt next year. That'll kind of create additional capacity in our budget that it's that we have that we didn't have 2 years ago.
Okay. Thank you for that.
I also saw that, I'm sorry, I don't have the page number because there were 125 pages in the packet, but that our revenue exceeded what we expected by 117K, so that's almost all of it.
That's correct. That helps.
Yeah.
I like,
So yeah, property taxes have also come in higher over the last 2 years than what LA County had projected. And that's also reflected, and I will get to that in the next agenda item a little bit. But that's also part of it too, is just higher secured and unsecured property taxes above and beyond what we were projecting and what LA County was projecting. So the combination of higher property taxes and lower salary related expenses, whether it's from vacant positions or CalPERS, is really the major two areas where we're uh, doing better.
Mm-hmm.
any other comments? I mean, I like having additional coverage if we can afford it. I just think it's odd that we don't have the numbers yet. Like, we can't make an informed decision without specific cost, can we?
Well, I mean, I think what we're anticipating is that if we can roll this into the budget now, which I will say, our budget is reflecting an increase in the insurance that we could certainly change, but it's true we don't have exact numbers, but we feel very confident, and I think I can speak for Finance Manager Lou when I say we feel very confident that this is an amount that we can cover, and that if he can have the authority to start actively incorporating that into the budget and showing where and how we're going to make this work, we can come back with definite numbers and show exactly how this is going to impact. What we're looking at tonight is the mid-year budget, which there's always going to be a little bit of flexibility and a little bit of movement in that budget. And if we have the authority and the approval of the board to say, yes, make this change, then we can show it tonight, we can show it in the budget and true it up when we get the numbers, so that at our final budget, we know that we're doing it, we know we're presenting it, we know where we are, and he can kind of work with those numbers going forward. If we wait until we have the numbers, that's not to say that we won't have enough time, but it just takes that one element that allows Finance Manager Lou to just incorporate into the budget right now. We do feel confident, even at the approximately 210,000 that it will cost. We feel confident that we can cover that. We know that our budget will sustain that. And I think it just gives us the kind of approval and authority to incorporate that into the budget now. So that's
And
why we're here,
All right, thanks.
yeah.
And also to add, our first reading of the budget is done in May. So those numbers, that's like kind of the first round of, budget for the following fiscal year 26, 27. So that should also have a good estimate from SDRMA um, of the insurance premium, including the $10 million limit if we, choose to move ahead with that. Um, just so that the timing.
What were the increments that were allowable? Because I remember we had this discussion previously, but, so we
You
went
mean
from
like
10
5,
million
10
to 5,
million?
yeah.
Yes, and there was a $2.5 million amount, but nothing else. There was no 7.5. It was
Okay,
just 2.5, 5, or 10.
okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right. Does any trustee want to make
I so move
the,
that what's written here in the Board of Library Trustees hereby approves increasing the liability insurance coverage limits back to 10 million beginning fiscal year 2026-27.
very good, thank you. Motion made by trustee Uno. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion clearly passes. Very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Still with Finance Manager Lou, going over the review and approval of the mid-year budget.
Let me go ahead and share my screen here.
May I ask one question before you go through those slides?
Yes.
As I was reviewing the materials, your special district's financial transactions report had Bob Park still listed instead of me. And I just wanted to make sure, I don't know the time frame, but it seems it probably should be changed to me at this point.
Yes, that's a good question. It's as of the fiscal year end. So that would have been June 30th. So those were the trustees as of June 30th of 2025.
Okay, so the report was for the last fiscal year then?
Correct.
Okay. And there
Yes.
was some blank fields, and I would assume you filled in what you needed to. Is that correct?
Yes, we have our outside auditors, CJ Brown, who does the filing for us every year, and I review it, and they've already filed it with the controller.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mhm. So here on the screen is the mid-year budget summary. I won't go through all the slides, but I will just kind of give a broad overview of the summary, what's changed here on this slide. So the total general fund operating revenues for mid-year 25-26 are projected at 13.8 million. That's the column in blue. And expenditures are projected at 13.7 million, reflecting a net excess of 117,000. That's a $210,000 favorable swing compared to the approved budget that was approved in June of 2025. That $210,000 favorable swing is due to higher revenues of 276,000, and that's primarily due to higher gifts, and that's from the Peninsula Library Friends Foundation. Approximately 200,000 of that's related to the Peninsula Center entryway, as well as additional designated gifts. Also contributing to the higher revenues were higher property taxes of 62,000 for the mid-year budget. That's due to higher secured and unsecured property tax revenue offset by some lower other property tax revenue. And then on the expense side, expenses are projected to go up approximately 66,000 from the original budget. The major variances there are on the fixed asset side. That's going up approximately 421,000, the bulk of which is due to the Peninsula Center entryway, contingency costs and furniture. And then also higher library expenses. That's about 82,000 of higher expenses. A good chunk of that's related to the Link Plus amount system, which is also funded by the Friends Foundation. And that's offset by lower salary and related expenses. We have kind of as every year vacancies and open positions, but also a $250,000 additional discretionary payment that we removed from the budget due to how CalPERS has been doing the past year or so. So that's generating some significant salary savings. So all in, our net, our bottom line is going from a negative 93,000 to a positive 117,000 for the general fund. I am also recommending to transfer 750,000 from the general fund to the pension fund to allow us to build up that fund some more in anticipation of prepaying our loan with First Foundation in the spring of 2027. So this slide here shows you, the two funds together will, with the 750,000 transfer, that'll bring us close to 4.5 million in the pension fund. And that's pretty much it. Just wanted to give this high-level summary and open it up to any questions.
Thank you.
When it comes to our loan, do we only have a certain number of limited windows in which we can do a prepayment?
Yes, there are like 3 or so windows, but so we can pick and choose, how much, how much or how little we want to prepay, or it could be anywhere from a partial payment to a full 100% payoff. But it has to be done on an interest payment date, so either April 1st or October 1st.
Okay. And it is horrible for consumers, but there's always the interest rate that we earn, and there is the consumer rate that we pay. Just to give us a quick reminder, how much do we earn on our money versus how much do we pay on that loan?
How much do we earn in our accounts at like LA County and Class?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, so our loan is at 3.5% loan with First Foundation.
Okay.
The interest at LA County has dropped down to about 3.17 or so, and the Class where we have the bulk of our money is at around 3.8%.
Okay. So
So our pension fund that is fully invested with California Class,
yeah.
and that's still at a higher than it's 3.8 versus 3.5 for our loan.
Yeah.
And then on the general fund side, it kind of varies throughout the year as our property tax revenue goes in and out. But right now, on a weighted average, as of like last month, we are probably at a 3.5% weighted average interest rate on the general fund.
Yeah. So if we're basically earning as much as we're paying out, we might as well just go ahead and pay it down.
That's correct. And also there is a prepayment, a sliding prepayment. So in 2027, that goes away. It's a 3-2-1. So 3% prepayment in 3 years ago, and then 2% and then 1%. So we're at the 1% prepayment level now. If we wanted to prepay, we could. But it just makes sense for me to just wait till 2027.
Any other comments or questions? Would any trustee like to make a motion to approve the budget as presented?
So moved.
Okay, motion by, we have a motion from Secretary Wittenberg. All those in favor of the
Aye.
motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, clearly passes. Thank you very much, Finance Manager Lou, for sticking with us here for a while. Thank you. And now we're going to move on to item number 13, which is a discussion about Board of Trustees travel budget, travel and training budget, and I'll hand it over to Director Addington
Thank you very
to
much.
launch this conversation.
Yeah. I won't read everything in the memo that's in the packet, and I'll try to just give you a higher level overview. So in our policy, there is 8070.0, training, education, and conferences, that does in fact encourage trustees to attend trainings and conferences and whatnot, where the purpose of such activities are to improve the Palos Verdes Library District operations. And there's really no other guideline other than that. What we have in our budget is a single line item, and there have been changes to that over the years. At one point, it was broken out, but now it's a single line item. And our travel, training, education budget for the board at this point in time is $10,000. And there has been some discussion about, how do we spend it? How do we allocate it? What is a fair and equitable way to do that? And I think it really, and I want to also, I think it comes about as the interest level of the trustees changes. There was a point in time where the trustees, there was a board makeup that really was not a particularly travel-y board. And then you get different people on the board, and they're more interested in traveling, they're more interested in doing community events. There was a point in time where the trustees simply didn't attend very many community events. And so over the years, that just sort of ebbs and flows. I do want to say that we have never gone over budget when you included, the only time we did was when we broke the budget in two, and we had a budget that included some monies for travel and then some monies for community events. And when we did that, we went over our travel money, but we simply took the monies from the community events line item and covered it. And so then a discussion was had where we said, well, if we're kind of taking from one, even if it's a sub-budget line, we're taking from one to feed the other, let's just be honest and put it all back into one budget. So, but at that time, we were kind of going up and kind of hitting the upper echelon of our budget. So we went back to look and see, well, okay, well, what are the big, what are big ticket items, and what are some of the events that all the trustees go to? So you'll see that definitely it's chamber events, and there's also no doubt that community events themselves are going up in ticket prices. There was a point in time where, a ticket to one of the big community events, whether it was a chamber event or a Rotary event or, what have you, was maybe $70, $80. Now we're looking at 110s, 150s. So definitely those ticketed events have gone up in cost. So when you look at, a $10,000 budget and you have 5 trustees and everybody might be interested in going to one or two things throughout the year, how do you divide that up? If you look at the policy, there's only one travel opportunity that's actually listed in the policy, and that's for the legislative liaison to attend legislative days, the California Special Districts Association Legislative Days in Sacramento. So that's the only thing that's like, it literally says the liaison will attend this. Other than that, there's a lot of opportunities. You can go, you cannot go, so how do you handle that travel budget? So in conversation with Finance Manager Lou, we were kind of, we looked at a lot of different agencies, what do a lot of them do, and I'm just simply suggesting, putting forth for discussion a couple of different options here. One, of course, would be to either at the beginning of the fiscal year or the beginning of the calendar year, definitely there's things that go over the fiscal years, sort of look at what is upcoming. It's, even if you may not know the exact amounts, it's possible, I think, to get a fairly accurate view of what events are upcoming. You know that there will be, for example, and I put it at the end of the memo, there will be things like the State of the Chamber. There'll be an Educator of the Year. There'll be an Economic Forecast Breakfast. There'll be a Legislative Forum. And typically those things are standard annual things. So if you kind of gauge what we have coming up, we know what travel opportunities are typical in any given year. There are the library-focused ones, which are the Public Library Association, American Library Association, and the California Library Association conferences. But then there's the California Special Districts Association events. For a new trustee, like Trustee or Secretary Wittenberry, there is the Leadership Conference. You don't have to attend it in your first year. You could certainly attend it in your second. But I think as a board, there's a lot of enthusiasm for sending a new trustee to that. There, of course, is the legislative days. And then you've got the annual conference for CSDA. You've got the Special Districts Leadership. You've got the Serving with the Purpose. So it could be that the board puts it on the agenda in either January or June, and decides at what point do we want to look ahead and decide, well, who's going to go to what? And that could be based on, I went for the last couple years, I haven't been for several years, I'm a new trustee, I would really like to do this, and just sort of plan it out and say that'd be, trustee A is going to go to this, and trustee B is going to go to that, and trustee C is going to go to this. A benefit of that, and then we're all going to go to these community events. A benefit of that might be that, first of all, the trustees themselves could get that on their calendars, schedule around it, be aware of what they're attending and what they're not attending, and look at the budget that way. And then, of course, if somebody said they wanted to go but then turns out they couldn't, find somebody else or whatnot. So that's one way to do it. It would basically just be kind of, going around round robin, who went to what, and picking it out. Another opportunity would be to actually divide the accounts up. It is a little more challenging that way, in my opinion, because I think you'd have to carve out a certain amount specifically for whoever happened to be the governmental liaison so that they could go to ledge days. And if you took that amount out and I put this as an example at the bottom of the memo, if you had a $10,000 budget and you took out the estimated expenses for legislative days, which is about $1,200, you'd have about $8,800 left. If you allocated that evenly between all the trustees, you're looking at about $1,700 a person. Now, $1,700 will get you to a lot of community events. You can pick and choose which ones you wanted to go to. Would absolutely get you to Serving with a Purpose. It would probably get you to maybe a CLA, a California Library Association, if it was close, if it was maybe drivable to Riverside or Long Beach, although we've only ever been to Long Beach once many, many years ago. If it's in Pasadena, it might not cover it if it was in Sacramento or San Jose. It might not cover the whole entire thing. Unfortunately, $1,700 would not get you to an ALA or a PLA, and it might not cover, I don't think it would cover the entirety of like a leadership, like the California the Special Districts Association Leadership Conference. So it does put a little kind of interesting twist on things because you might have one trustee who simply would never spend their 1,700, and another who really is excited, or it's time for them, or the board felt it was appropriate for them to go to a leadership conference. So it does end up being, I think it lends itself to more discussion in an ongoing way. You know, do you borrow money from other trustees kind of thing? It can be a little challenging. But again, these are just two approaches. We're just trying to kind of bring it to the attention of the trustees. And again, I do want to say, we've never actually gone over the budget. We've gone right up to it, but we've never gone truly, truly over it because we merged the two lines together. So, and then the final document that we added, we gave you the policies just so that you could see the policies without having to go dig them up. And then the final document was really just a way of showing some of the events that we typically attend, and you can see that they come up kind of year after year, these kind of standard ones. So give you a sense of what that is. But I'm sure it's going to be, you know, a big talkative conversation. I don't have any answers, and I'm not suggesting an answer. And it's truly up to the board what decision they, you know, what kind of conversation happens tonight or how you'd like to go about it. But it did come up in the budget workshop as a topic that the board wanted to discuss. So a finance manager, Lou, and I did kind of as much digging as we could and tried to run some numbers year by year and then, you know, give you like a really full sense of what the accounting was for travel, and then open it up, you know, to discussion for the trustees of how you think you'd like to handle this. And the staff is fully willing to follow your lead in any way.
So I'm going to make myself sound old. You know, let me go ahead and divide it pre-COVID and post-COVID to go ahead and make it a little bit more neutral. When I first got onto this board, I think that in terms of the travel budget, I think Director Gould assumed maybe 2 trustees might go to legislative days, and 2, maybe 3 might go to some of the various events on the peninsula where we had to buy tickets. And during the course of the monthly meetings for upcoming events, she would make us aware of upcoming events. And for the benefit of the public, we would nicely ask, well, who's the primary audience for this conference or whatnot? And she would go ahead and explain what the conference was and who the primary audience was. And in many cases, trustees would say, okay, I don't fit that primary audience, and so therefore there's no need for me to go. You've kind of answered some of the questions in a post-COVID situation. It's no mystery. For many years, I've been going to legislative days in Sacramento, and that's been budgeted for. I've noticed that for some of the events on the Hill, there are some events in which we have perfect attendance as an organization. And quite frankly, I actually like that because it really gives us the opportunity to demonstrate that we're out and about in the community, but also gives us opportunity to go ahead and interact with our fellow elected officials in many cases. And then beyond that, I'm not really quite sure, you know, what eats up the budget or how it gets eaten up. So one of the thoughts I had was, in the same way that we budget for an election, because in the budget we have an election expense, sometimes we use it. When we don't have an election, basically just stays there. Perhaps what we could do is we can say, okay, we've got a budget for a trustee or 2 trustees or whatever to go to CSDA. We have a budget for someone to go to leadership conference. So in the case we have a new person, they go. If we don't have a new person, then basically just stays unspent. The events on the Hill are fairly predictable. So maybe what you could do is you could put a budget for that. And if we have perfect attendance, it gets used up. If we don't have perfect attendance, we come under budget. And then beyond that, I'm not quite sure how you want to go ahead and handle it. Because obviously the composition of our board has changed. The interest level has changed to attend some things. But CSDA, I feel strongly about. Leadership to training, I feel strongly about. And if we do continue to have good attendance going to our peninsula events, I feel fairly strongly about that too. Everything else, I really don't give a darn.
So you'd be proposing multiple budget line items, right?
Yeah.
Splitting this up, yeah.
I don't know, that sounds kind of cumbersome for the staff. I don't know if that's worth their time to line item all of those things. That's just, it's worked so far. We've never gone above the budget. And I was trying to figure out like how approvals are made, and you provided part of Section 8000, but I actually looked at the policies and procedures that's on the website, and there's one section that seems to be missing, which is 80, what is it? 8080.1. It jumps from 8070 to 80, oh, sorry, jumping back and forth here. It jumps from 8070 to 8080.2. Yes, but if you look in the policies itself, there's an 8080.1 authorized expenses, which says a member of the board is eligible to receive reimbursement. It's under reimbursement, but basically provided the attendance is approved pursuant to Section 8070.2 of this policy, and there's no Section 8070.2.
Probably meaning 8080.2.
Maybe, if that's a typo. But anyway, we should look at that a little more carefully
Sure.
as we're, because it's a little confusing.
Well, and
Cross-referencing.
approval in some ways is a little confusing because there is nothing that says, the approval process has basically been as long as it falls within the budget. And there was a point in time where, and I went back and found this many years ago, there was the library director went to legal counsel to kind of see how we could do this, because there was a point in time where it said all travel, any instance of travel, had to be approved by the full board. So you had to come to the full board and say, I want to go to Serving with a Purpose, and the full board had to approve that. And there was a memo from the director at the time, and again, I believe this was like maybe back in 2010 or 2012 or something like that. It was quite a while ago, if not even sooner than that, earlier than that, I mean. And they basically said that becomes incredibly cumbersome and almost impossible because you're trying to get early bird registrations, and by the time you go to a board meeting, early bird has ended and you're trying to be fiscally responsible, and how do we do these things? And so with legal guidance, they basically said, if you establish a budget, a travel budget, and it is agreed upon, just as we did with the mid-year budget, if it is in the budget, it is listed in the budget, and all the board has agreed to that, as long as travel stays within the budget, then it is considered approved. So from that point on, we've never had to say, trustee A wants to go to this, is it approved? We've just done kind of what I did today. Here are the things that are coming up. If you're interested, please let one of us know. We'll buy you a ticket. And as long as we're within budget, it is deemed okay. And again, we've typically been within budget. I will say, if you happen to have a year, or if there happens to be an occasion where you send one person to a leadership, one person to a library conference, maybe two people to a library conference, and somebody goes to the CSDA annual, and you go to Ledge Days, and everybody goes, if you just have a particularly busy year, we will quickly get up to that 10,000 limit. I will agree with Trustee Easton that I don't know that we would actually break apart the budget like into separate line items. We actually did that when we broke out the community events and had travel. And like I said, we started borrowing from line items. But I think there's some value in, as a board, again, deciding what events have the most value to the board. You know, maybe there is some metric where you can say, we value community events. We value California Special Library, or Special District events. We think legislative is important. We literally put that in the policy. And we think leadership is important for a trustee in their first 2 years of a term. And then maybe the other one, serving with a purpose, but I'm making this up, but you know, do you want like a rubric of the value to the district? Or do you kind of just want to say, let's keep going the way we've been going for another year and see where we land? At this point in time, we're about halfway through the year, so I believe I have the number of what we have left. So we probably have about, or we've spent about $2,800. So we have whatever's left of the 10,000. And I mean, tonight's a great example of the Educator of the Year event. That was, I think that was like $100 and something ticket. $110. If all the trustees go, well, you know, that's a fairly expensive night for the library district. But we see that with a lot of these. I mean, the Salute to Business and Citizen of the Year at $150 a person, if every single trustee goes, that's a fair chunk out of our budget. And I think, you know, you just have to weigh what is that value. Is it, you know, do you say we're never going to send more than 3 people to something that's over $100, or maybe the budget accommodates it? I think those are all the unknowns that make it so challenging. You know.
Are you familiar at all with how other special districts in the area handle this?
I reached out to my 2 cohorts, one in Placentia and one up in my library director friend in Altadena. My friend in Buena Park and in Placentia. And interestingly, I think they have boards that are a little bit more like some of our previous boards. The Placentia Library District director said that she made a point of having enough money to send herself typically and one other trustee to legislative days. They encouraged the trustees to try to go to at least one California or Library Association conference in their term. But nobody went to PLA, nobody went to ALA. They tried to go to Serving with a Purpose, but I don't think they had the same big community events like we do. We have a pretty active chamber with some pretty big events, and I don't think they had that same thing. Another library director came back to me and said, oh my gosh, I can't get anybody to travel. Like they literally didn't want to. So she's like, I don't understand that problem because we just don't have it. And then another one who was like, we try to go to the CSDAs, that they were very more focused on California Special District. They like to send somebody to leadership. They like to go to the annual conferences. They would go to Serving with a Purpose when they had an opportunity, but it wasn't quite as high on their kind of cohort of beneficial programs. And I think only if it was close enough to drive would they go to the California Library Association. Several of my library director friends said that traveling out of state was something that they would not do, unless somebody came forward with basically like a proposal and said, this is why I want to do this and this is what I'm going to do. Other than that, they would only go to things that were in state. So, I mean, that's another option. I don't know.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that I do think there's some errors on my totals, because I did not spend $2,000 on San Diego, and that rolled in other events that I had funded. So I would like to have mine looked at again.
Well, again, this was just, like I said in the memo, we didn't track as closely as we would now, going back, but we went back as much as we could to just kind of pull all the receipts and everything that we've gotten.
I understand that. I just,
so-
don't want it out in the public that I'm being irresponsible spending, these amounts. That is, I know that one is multiple activities rolled into one reimbursement.
Okay.
So, but I also, agree with that concept of, we are a local library district. And we very much are a local library district. And it makes sense for us to attend the community events. And then, having been someone who's attended multiple events, the events, or the conferences that are California-based are the ones that do make the most sense for us. When I've attended some of the webinars, they may provide some information that's relevant or to all libraries. But, going to the California conferences, we meet people who are very much in very similar circumstances that we are. And that we could, I don't want to say learn from, but that we could, that we could learn from. And so I very much think that may be the one way that, we could go.
Yeah.
So, having just come back from a conference that cost way more than I'm reimbursed to go to, I do understand that prices are rising on these things. And I am also hearing that we definitely want to send the legislative rep, and I assume the director, to the Ledge Days. I'm wondering if we want to just make sure that's covered separately and then keep the $10,000 the way we've been doing it for all the other events, which it seems like it hasn't been broken. And I'm thinking, if it's not broken, why fix it, right? But it does seem like if we could carve out, and it's really adding to the budget, right, for the legislative affairs, but make that separate and then just keep the 10,000 the way we've been doing it.
Or it hasn't been an issue
Right.
Yeah.
in the last couple of years. As ledge rep, I couldn't go last year, so that's in the budget. But that was in the previous year's
Yeah.
budget, I think. I would say, though, that, Lessa, who was a librarian here, was president of the ALA, and there's a lot of value to seeing what is happening nationally to libraries, too. So I think it's important for community events, California events, but I also think that national exposure to best practices and what other libraries are doing around the country is valuable as well.
Yeah.
So, we've been able to work within the budget so far, and I think if it is a job, under a job description for the government liaison to attend and have that money set aside, we shouldn't have to penalize that person, you know, because if we, it's part of their job description and, you know, if they're going to more events, you know, it seems inequitable. But yeah, I mean, I think it's wonderful that we have an active board and we have a budget that seems to be working.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we could absolutely do any of that. We could add a little bit more, just to make sure that we always cover. I mean, we could bump it from 10 to like, you know, 11.2 or 11.5 or something like that. Just add a little $1,500 more so that we're always covering that one and have 10,000 left for everybody. You know, I think Secretary Wittenberry made an interesting point that we've never really discussed, which is if there is something that's maybe out of state, or you know that it's going to cost a little bit more money, maybe there's a cost sharing that puts in place if we're going to go over budget, you know? I mean, there's a lot of options there. I know even with our own staff, we're very mindful about using the travel budget, and we will often talk to them about, well, what is your travel plans? Where are you going to stay? What are you going to do? We don't force anybody to room together or anything like that, but we've also had conversations where if we know that several staff want to go to the same event, if, and again, putting it out there as an if, and I don't think this would apply to the board, but I'm just as cost-saving issues, you know, we've asked them, you know, if somebody were to travel together or carpool together, that would save, you know, if employees were willing to share a hotel room, that would save, you know, there's options to do that. And so I think if we did come to a point where we were starting to kind of hit our budget limit and somebody still wanted to go to something, we could either bring it back to the board and have a conversation about that and say, is there any kind of opportunity here for cost sharing? Or, you know, are we okay going over budget? I mean, that's okay too. But I think to Trustee Easton's point, and what I was trying to say earlier is, technically we never have. We've never gone over budget. We've always been very mindful about it. And there are times where these big ticket events, we just simply won't go, or we don't care to go, or it conflicts like it did tonight and nobody went. So there are times where that just doesn't, you know, you won't spend $700 to go to an event because, you know, it's just not as important that particular year, or maybe only one or two people go. So, and that's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine to say, let's continue doing what we're doing now. Let's be mindful about it. Let's be careful about what we're spending, and, you know, keep an eye on the budget. I was asked several months ago to ensure that I knew where we were with the travel budget at every board meeting, and we can continue to do that. I'll let you know exactly where we are and kind of play it by ear.
Real quick question, when it comes to the events on the Hill, you know, I think that we covered the fact that more of us are going to those local events than pre-COVID. But have we also been taking into account the increase in ticket prices as we do our annual budget?
Well, I mean, I think we have, in as much as the travel budget it definitely increased over the years. There's no doubt about that. There was a point in time where the travel budget for board was about $2,000.
Yeah.
And then I think it went to 5, and then it went to 7, and then it went to 7.5, and then it went to 9, and we kind of ended and settled at 10. And for a hot tick, we went up to 12.5, but we never actually spent 12.5. We never spent that money. It was just approved in the budget, and then we dropped it back down. So I think that 12.5 is when we started to go over budget in the travel and started to kind of take money from the community events.
Yeah.
But once we merged those two line items back together, then it it never did go over, and we never did spend 12.5.
No, the reason, only thing I'm asking is that as we develop the number, whatever the number
Right.
is, you know, there has to be a basis for the number. So it's assuming, okay, we think that on average, 4 trustees will go to these events.
Yeah.
So therefore, we take tickets, multiply by 4 or 5.
And to be honest, we've never been that granular.
Okay.
I've never crunched the numbers to say if 4 trustees went to approximately 65% of the events, this is how much it would cost, and then if you factor in this, and I've never gone that granular.
Okay.
Can I just ask you where the CLA conference is going to be this year? Do you know?
It's in Riverside.
Okay. And what is the attendance fee for that?
CLA registration is probably $295, $3,
And is
something
an
like that.
overnight stay required there?
I would say so, yes. I mean, I know that there were staff, it was in Riverside this last year as well, and I know that there were staff that drove home and drove back every day, but I wouldn't want to put anybody through that. The one thing about conference, and I think this is true for all of them. I think it's true for Ledge Days. I think it's true for CSDA Annual. It's definitely true for the library conferences. Many of them start, especially the library conferences, are starting to have night tracks because they appreciate that there are morning people and there are night people. And so there are often night tracks that can be also very, professionally focused and very educational, but also kind of a more fun element. There's galas and things like that.
And they start at 8 a.m.
And yeah, so if you go to if you go to an 8 o'clock thing, it's hard to get there at 8 o'clock if you're driving in. So I do think, and that's why I kind of put those all in travel, and even serving with a purpose. Depends on kind of where you are or who you are. It's not uncommon for trustees to drive to Ontario, get a hotel for one night so that they can start at 8 o'clock in the morning the next day and then do a full day conference and then maybe drive home, But to drive to Ontario for even a 9 o'clock start, depending on where you live, can be kind of a lot. So even that is, a potential travel opportunity. But I would say everything else is, yeah.
And just while we're on the subject, do any of these happen over the summer when certain professors have a break?
I know.
ALA always does. But
Is it? It will.
Well, I mean, ALA is in June.
exactly.
It's the Leadership Academies. It's interesting that they actually have 3 dates this year. There's a May date, a July date, and a September date. But, I mean, there's no doubt that I think it's also about what facility will fit the individual conferences, and then the pricing. I know for CLA, if they can book 2 years in a row, they often get a better price. ALA's always had a tradition almost of, you go to the hottest place for the annual, and there used to be a midwinter, and it was always in the coldest place possible because it was just
The
cheaper.
hotel rates are better.
Yeah, the hotel rates are better. So yeah, it's, June in New Orleans, and you were just like, oh my goodness. But it was cheap. And then PLA, it's only every other year, so you can't go to that every year. So, I think there's just weighing. But I also think you have to weigh, kind of like to Trustee Uno's point, what are you going to bring back to the district? Because ultimately, it is clearly stated that travel and educational opportunities are encouraged for opportunities that benefit the district. So what are you bringing back? And I've talked to Executive Assistant Bender in that we also have to be more mindful about ensuring that that becomes an agenda item when the trustee returns. because there, it really does say, as per policy, you must give a report. It can be a verbal report, but you must give a report. So I am going to be better about ensuring that that actually gets on the agenda, that when somebody travels, they bring it back, they share with the rest of the team, because that's the whole point, you know.
And, you know, I can say that each time that I went, I did bring something back. We were working on something, and I brought back what other libraries were doing, or I brought back policies when we were working with PLFF
PLF.
to work on the policy, on the agreement. You know, I went to a session and brought that information back for Jennifer so that she would have access to that and be able to talk to those, to that library who had gone through a similar process. You know, I don't know if that's always happened, so.
Are we ready for a motion of some sort?
Is there a motion, or this is discussion?
If there's no action to be taken,
No.
then we don't need a motion.
I was
think
going to
if we
ask
just,
to follow up on Secretary Wittenberry's comment at the beginning of the meeting, or question about serving with a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
That, I've never been to that event, so I can't really speak to it, but I think probably all.
I have gone
you-
several times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I was just wondering if maybe we could have a really brief discussion about the value of attendance there for trustees.
So, you know, it depends upon who's planning it that year. There were 2 years where it was very useful. So they bring in people who have addressed overall library issues. And I don't remember what they are now because they're all running together. But it can be useful. You know, this year I'm not planning to go because I wasn't interested in the topics.
One of the reasons I asked the question earlier tonight was that in previous years, let's call them pre-COVID years, serving was a purpose was really quite actively visited by our members of the Friends. It wouldn't be unusual for them to have on average 3 people go out per year. And I think that the primary audience were individuals like them who basically were, community citizens who were basically working for organizations that, that supported organizations like ours. I could definitely see where maybe it's a little bit less.
It's very much less. So,
Yeah.
you know, there are librarians there are trustees there, they have breakout groups
Yeah.
in the late afternoon, which I've never been able to stay for because the meeting has been on the same day as our meeting, and I needed to return. But, you know, they have something for everyone there.
Yeah, so they do have a little something for everybody.
it definitely started as a conference that supported, designed for library advocates, board members, and the staff who support them. I do think it's kind of grown over the years to be more than that. This year's theme is Excellence Begins with Essentials, Helping Your Boards to Soar. And they've got 2 big speakers. They've got a primary speaker who leads the strategic planning efforts for nonprofit clients, talking about fundraising and communication, staff and board engagement, issues, mitigating, and more. So she runs a library foundation. So, you know, that's the speaker. They also have an author who's visiting. So, you know, all the information is on their website. But I think one of the things that also I think is benefit of the that is a benefit is that you meet other people, right? kind of like what we were saying. You meet other trustees, you meet other board members, you meet other librarians, you meet, you know, you'll be unique, I think, in coming from a special district, because a lot of people come from counties and cities and whatnot. But you kind of start to meet people in the community. And I think in some ways, well, that's exactly why I also like the CSDA annual conference. Because I think you think about who we are. We're a special district. We're a special district library, which is very unique and a little bit different. But our foundational operations, kind of behind the scenes, are as a special district. So the funding, the resources, what it means to be a special district, the laws, the civics, the finance that we have to take. And when you go to the CSDA conference, yes, you're there with people who are from water districts and termite districts and cemetery
Mosquito
districts, mosquito abatement districts, you know. But they're all special districts. And so they understand what it means to be a special district. And I think that's very valuable to a board, because you're looking at, you know, boards of special districts. And then you throw in something like Serving with a Purpose, where they're boards of libraries, which is kind of unique. And you get a little bit of both, you know. But yeah, I think they're, like anything, it's also what you put into it. If you go and sit there and do nothing and eat the buffet and then leave, then you're not going to get much. But if you engage with people and talk to people and visit, and, you know, then it's more.
Right. Okay. Any other comments or questions on that topic? Okay. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Annual review of district statistics. So,
All
Director
right.
Roy, it's your turn.
Thank you, President Butler. It's always fun for me to kind of take a look back at how we've been doing over the past few years. And maybe it's fun because we've been hitting some benchmark records for 4 years in a row, which is always exciting to see. And I know a lot of the managers have continued to ask me, are we going to hit 1 million circulation? And we're certainly trending that way. I know a lot of our staff are excited about that possibility. It's just a statistic that we've never reached before, and would be a huge milestone. And if the past trends are any indication, we may well hit that mark in 2026, by the end of 2026. So we're excited about that. Our core metrics, what I consider our core metrics, are our total checkouts and our total library visits district-wide, both of which are continuing to rise. They've, as far as I can tell, have been setting all-time highs since the post-COVID era. I was just looking back at some of the statistics that were presented to the board in 2023, when we were very specifically looking at had we gotten back to where we were before COVID. And it looks like in terms of circulation, our pre-COVID circulation in 2018, which I think is the year that Director Addington started as the director here at the library, the circulation was just under 700,000. And then in 2019, we started seeing a rise. It was 850,000. And then, of course, it took a dip in 2020, 2021. But by 2022, we were back on track at 874,000. And then 2023, we get into 914,000. And you can see the table in the board packet as it continues to go up. I like to think that this is a result of some of the decisions that this board has made with getting rid of fines and fees for both children and then later adults. And then there were other items in the collection that we were charging for that we eliminated fees for. We used to charge for new DVDs, maybe even old ones. There were quite a few little sections of the collection that we were still charging money for our patrons to check out. And we've eliminated all of that. And I do think that has helped, been a driver over the years to increase the circulation. We have seen a couple of statistics this year go down. The new library cards issued went down. Not as far as it was in 2023, but definitely down from 2024. And in conversation with our circulation manager, Ketsi Diaz, she does think that is because we were zeroing in on some of these illegitimate cards and really scrutinizing the addresses and were these actual, people who were trying to get cards and trying to interact with them and not getting responses, and then not creating the library cards that in the past and during the COVID era we would have just automatically sent numbers to. I did see a dip in the teen annex attendance, but to me, I think that's because 2024 was the first year that the annex was open on the roof here as a full year for the teen annex, because it did open mid-2023. I think a lot of people came to visit the annex that year and were excited to visit the annex. And maybe they didn't become regular annex customers. But we also were a bit concerned about the capacity that year, and we're really kind of hitting the edge of what we can hold in the annex and what our fire code allows. So it has actually kind of settled out into a very healthy number. You can drop in at the annex any evening and see over a dozen teens enjoying that space in various different capacities, from doing schoolwork, playing video games, playing board games, eating snacks on the computers. They're in every area of the annex and they're enjoying themselves. So I do think that 8,000 number is a healthy number for us. We continue to trend upward, and I hope that we can do that into the future. I know that realistically, eventually there has to be a plateau where we are thriving and yet not growing beyond the capacity of what our staff can handle. But for now, we still continue to be optimistic to hit that 1 million circ number as we enter into a whole new area with Link Plus and with lending our items even further beyond our district to other districts and circulating items from other libraries' collections to our patrons. We feel pretty confident that we will hit that 1 million goal that a lot of our staff are excited about. So I'm happy to answer any questions that the trustees may have, but as an indicator, our statistics are looking strong, and it generally indicates a lot of interest from our community for our programs, for our items, and for just being in this community space. So, yes.
So the total checkouts, does that include renewals?
Yes, it includes the renewals too.
Okay, so then I may help you.
Yes. Well,
too.
we do have, we have had a very high renewal limit for a long time, and then we realized that we were overriding that limit, as if there were no holds on the items. So for a couple of years now, we've just not had a renewal limit. But then we've started to see that some books have been out for multiple years. So one of the things that we're looking at implementing now is just as a procedure for our circulation department, just putting kind of like a wellness hold on books that have been out over a year. So we don't need to really limit the renewals to a certain point, but we can put a hold on them if they've been out, quite a long time, just to make sure that they come back to the library, we can check their condition, and then they can go right back out again.
Okay, so I should be getting some.
Yeah, if you've had some books for quite some time, but if you send us an email saying this book is doing okay, I'm sure we can get your renewals. Keep going.
They just want proof of life.
Well, there's a
of life.
book that I think is somewhere in my house.
And
So
that's-
I've renewed that one.
That's part of the purpose of putting that well-being hold on there. If there are people out there who just can't find the book, it'll help us identify that and work with them.
I have a question. So the ILL books that come,
Yeah.
so this will be digitized or available by ebook, but if it comes, there will still be a nominal $2 charge for these,
So
right?
with Link Plus, it's really going to kind of revolutionize ILL because our collection is going to expand drastically with all of these partner libraries that are part of the Link Plus consortium, basically. So the first step when you're looking for something in the catalog, if it's not available, it will tell you can get this through Link Plus, which is free of charge for the patron. Again, that was generously funded, this whole software and program by the Peninsula Library Friends Foundation. So So that kind of absorbs the cost away from patrons. And again, that's what we've seen historically to be a driver in higher circulation. So we do feel like, more people, as they realize in the catalog that, oh, we don't have it here, but I can get it free of charge. We've rolled out Link Plus, soft rollout for the staff, just to kind of get used to doing it. So that happened a couple of weeks ago. Happy to report that as we check out books, and even, books that we may own, but all of our books are on hold. There, might be other libraries where they're just sitting on the shelf, and I was able to get one just like that. The book came in 2 days. It was
Amazing.
zero charge for it, and I think you can check out up to 6 Link Plus books at a time. Yeah. So we're going to be starting a publicity campaign for that pretty soon. We don't want to really roll it out in such a big way that we get overwhelmed. So it is going to be kind of a little bit of a soft rollout. Maybe as soon as next week, you might start seeing those in the catalog, but then it may be a little later before we start our publicity, so that our staff can get used to how many of requests we're going to be getting and fulfilling those requests. But
It is a game changer, though.
it is a significant, change, and for our community, it's going to be a very big deal, I believe, because there's just so many more books. I mean, if you've ever typed a title into our collection and we don't have it, as long as it's not a rare book, you very likely will be able to get it through Link Plus.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That being said, we will not get rid of ILL. I think ILL will just kind of revert back to maybe what its original intent was, to be very rare and very hard to get items that you know are not carried by a regular public library. Because if it's carried by a regular public library, you'll probably get it through Link Plus.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now on to the nomination of candidates for LA County LAFCO. Director Addington.
Thank you. Well, as the board has probably seen before, we've gotten another message from LAFCO about the nominations for candidate for a special district voting member and special district alternate member. There's a memo from Lagerlof in your packet. They're looking for people to run. If you're interested, the form is attached. You can put your name in to run for either an alternate or a voting member. If you have questions about it, I think you could probably ask President Butler, who could share his experience running. It's a lot to run.
I asked him, I would take his response as a no.
But it's there, and we definitely want to make sure that the board is aware that they are in fact looking for somebody. If you feel like you want to put your name forward and you have the time and energy to do so, we're more than happy to help you facilitate that, but it is an opportunity that we wanted to make sure that the board was aware of.
Thank you very much. And still with Director Addington, moving on to the Director's Monthly Report.
Thank you very much. I'll keep my report fairly short and sweet. I know everybody's had an opportunity to read my report. I'll just call out very quickly that we did start January with a wonderful opportunity to recognize our milestone staff. I think, as was indicated there, and I indicated in my report, I think it's really says something, and it's meaningful to acknowledge that we have employees who've worked with the district for over 25 years. I think that says something about the kind of community and the kind of space that we create here. We've had a lot of wonderful programs. We finished up our PV Writes Together program with the live anthology reading, and I know that everybody there had a really good time that evening, so great opportunities going on. Also wanted to call out a really neat event that the Young Readers held, which was Yalda, the Iranian winter solstice. We actually, and I noted it here in my report, we got a lovely comment from a community member who worked with the Young Readers assistant manager, Marissa Purley, to put on that show. And I particularly loved it because I thought it was such a great example of the engagement that our librarians have with the community and how we're trying to be responsive to the requests and actions that we've gotten from them. So I think it's just a really neat program, and we were happy to support that. I won't go into too much detail about a lot of other stuff. I'm happy to answer any questions about it. We did, we were talking about the Deep Valley entryway upgrades, really excited to get that started. I know the staff is really excited about that as well and really looking forward to what that's going to come out to be. But I will recognize that our staff Pay It Forward Award recipients in this month was our entire IT team. So acknowledging our IT manager Laszlo Latotsky, John Jacobson, and Brett LaForest. Great team. We have exceptional IT in this district, and I think anybody who works here feels very confident that we've got a good team of people who can help us out. So I echo that. And then again, just to acknowledge one more time that we were very sad to lose our Lorenzo. He was a wonderful employee. We miss him, and we wish him and his family all the very best. Happy to answer any questions about it, but I'll leave it at that.
No questions, I think so.
Thank you.
Next up is Community Relations Committee report. Secretary Wittenbury and Trustee Easton.
Trustee Easton, will you start, please?
Oh, well, a couple of you have already mentioned the chamber event and the celebration of recognition of the outgoing mayor, Debbie Strugora. Just a fun a library program that I participated in at Mayor Les Library was Bedazzling My Book, and that was really fun having a young and old, bringing their favorite books and gluing beads onto the titles and images and having fun. That was great. And I also saw the hydroponic farm at Marilest, and they were about to harvest. I didn't get a chance to go the following week, but it's amazing what can grow. And if anybody has a chance to go, especially during harvest, I highly encourage it. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
So I'll cover two other events. So I had mentioned that I just got back from a meeting you did not all pay for me to attend. I just want to make that clear. It was otherwise funded, but I did attend the ABA mid-year meeting, which was in San Antonio, Texas. And in that capacity, being there, I had the opportunity to let the entire California delegation know that I am now serving as a trustee, and they were all happy to hear that because at annual meeting, they asked us all to say what our first job was, and I told them my first job was as a library page, so I was happy this time when they asked for a fun fact to be able to say I have come full circle. So that was really nice and did put the library district on everyone's radar, so I enjoyed that. I do have two things that came out of that meeting that I want to share with you. The first is that the ABA, through their judicial division, has started a book series. It is a book series they're calling The Many Faces of the Law. It's a children's picture book series, and the first book in the series is now out, just out. I have the flyer. I'm going to give it to Jennifer, called Maisie's Amazing Journey, and it really is about the senator from Hawaii, Mazie Hirano. And I just have to tell you that I feel that we should be supporting this series because it really does fit with our strategic plan under inclusion and belonging. How it came to be was our past president, Mary Smith of the ABA, was the first Native American female president of the ABA. And she shared a story that when she was starting to run for that office, several people said to her, "You don't look like a lawyer, and you certainly don't look like a president of the ABA." And she surmounted that challenge and was elected president. It was quite a big deal, as you can imagine. So she started this series with faces that one wouldn't necessarily typically attribute to being a lawyer. And this is the first one. The next one should be Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. So I am going to point out that you can get a $25 or a 20% discount if you order this before February, and there's a QR code. The other thing that came out that I thought was pertinent to the library was this is our 250th year of independence from England, and the ABA has put together quite a lovely exhibit that has come out through the Law Library of Congress. And it has several, it's a traveling exhibit, it has several standing things that explain about the Declaration of Independence. Again, it is raising up all voices in the land of the free is sort of the theme of this. It does cost some money. You can either buy it to have it up all year, or you can rent it for 2 weeks. I am wondering if it's something we might want to approach the foundation to support, or if that's even something you all care about. But I wanted to bring it to your attention. It is quite well done, and it is out of the Library of Congress. And I don't know that we have anything up really about that. So I thought it might be kind of cool to have that as we open our new entry. It could all be up in our, what do we call that? Breezeway, entryway inside, as one thought. So that is the report on that. The other thing that Trustee Easton and I agreed I would cover is the chamber installation. I know it's been mentioned, but I did want to tell those of you who weren't there that there was a very nice reminiscence of Eileen Hupp. Incidentally, I think we all know that her memorial service is going to be held this Saturday, just to remind you. But Alan Bond gave the reminiscence of it at that event, and he's always very, very good at doing that, and it was very moving and very touching. Also, the State of the Chamber and their celebration of 70 years here on the peninsula. So they did discuss that, and that was really wonderful. And then the installation of the board, and I have to highlight that our very own director, Addington, is on the board. She also serves on the Legislative Action Committee for the Chamber, and I have seen her in both roles. She does a great job of representing the library, and in fact, she and I reached out and asked if they wanted to return to in-person meetings for the LAC and offered up the library as a possible venue for that. They have decided to do it instead at the Chamber offices, but it was another opportunity to show leaders in our community that we really are here and a center for community on the Hill. And I just have to say, in my other hat with CSUDH, that I had the opportunity to introduce the very new interim president of the university also at that chamber event. So I was very happy that she took the time to go and to meet with everyone, and it was an amazing event. So that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. And now we'll hear the Government Relations Liaison Report by Trustee Uno.
I don't have anything to report.
Okay, thank you very much. And items for future agendas. What do we have in the coming couple of months?
So in March, we have our Peninsula Teen Advisory Council report. I'll have an update on Assembly Bill 2561. This is an annual update that we have to do that reports vacancies in the organization, so we'll have a memo about that. We will continue to have facility updates from our facility manager throughout the entire project, so we'll make sure that everybody's aware of what's going on then. Right now, those are what we have.
All right, thank you. Are there any agenda items anyone wants to bring forward? Okay. All right, at this point, we will entertain a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting. We have a motion made by Vice President Wong to adjourn tonight's meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, good night.
Thank you.